Hey crew, I hope you had a great Christmas, and today I wanted to go over armor sets and their affinities and how I go about setting up my armor so I can use it with any builds that I like in Destiny 2. So this is a complete tutorial on how to build and optimize all your armor sets easily for any build that you want to accomplish in the game. This is probably the #1 question I get right now. Well, I can't run this build because my X armor piece or exotic is already masterwork to a different affinity and I don't want to change it to fit a mod, or I don't have that many Ascendant shards and stuff like that. Stuff that a lot of players who don't play as much might not have access to. So we're going to work around all that. I'm going to show you how to do it. So hopefully this is more of a straightforward guide and a build setup guide that you guys can use to do moving forward in Destiny 2. And it's pretty simple the way that we're going to work around some things. If you guys enjoyed this video and found this video helpful, then hit that subscribe button for me and become part of the crew here. Also, if you haven't joined the Discord, then join up to get access to the builds channel that you see on screen here, so you can start making and saving some awesome builds, which we're going to go over in dim a couple features as well towards the end of the video. So hopefully this helps you guys out. First off, on your Ghost, make sure you're running some sort of armor mod when you're farming armor. I try to keep one of these on all the time, but this helps you acquire stats on your armor piece to guarantee something already being active within that armor, right? So right here I have a recovery armor ghost mod on. Armor pieces with random stats you acquire will have a guaranteed minimum of 10 recovery. So hopefully run one of these because that helps you cut out something that you might need. Intellect isn't as important anymore because of the changes to super cooldown, right? It's all tier based and it's all based on the damage you do and the damage you receive. So don't worry too much about intellect anymore. Like literally in PvE, you can have like from 4 to 10 intellect and you're getting your super around the same time. And there's ways to get extra super without having, a lot of intellect. So don't worry about intellect. Discipline is really huge, okay? Grenades do a lot more damage in PvE now, like a lot. You can get them back really fast and they're just a great ad control, zone for enemies. So discipline is really good. And then recovery, I would always say try to get high recovery, because that's how fast you can get back into a fight instead of sitting back and waiting, okay? And then on a hunter, mobility is important. On a titan, you could say strength. You could also say resilience on a titan for barricades, stuff like that. So remember that you have access to that. So yesterday, I farmed a bunch of armor over in the master dungeon. So as you can see here, I have a ton on my hunter. We have helmets, arms, chests, legs, and cloaks. And the reason I did this is to show you guys an example of how I work through all my armor. So on our cloak here, by far the class item on any character is the easiest. All you need is one type for each. So let's say I have a void here, I have an arc, a solar, and a solar. So I'm missing a stasis, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and change this to stasis. And then I'm gonna masterwork it just because I can and I have the materials. But if you don't have the materials to masterwork all the way, don't worry about it. If you can only get to 7 energy, right? Or let's say you can only get to like 9 energy, that's fine. Just get to where you can get to, and that's all you need to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and masterwork the stasis one. I'm gonna masterwork the solar one because I want these cloaks because they have the extra mod socket armor piece for the artifice armor that you get from the master dungeon. But the thing about any class item in the game is it doesn't matter, what armor piece or where it came from or anything like that, or the stats, because the stats, they don't have stats, right? In the bottom right, they don't have the stats that you need. Technically, I already have a Twisting Echo one. Nah, whatever. Anyways, we're going to keep masterworking these and get these done. So now we have our 4 different affinities. So now I could never say in any type of build that I do that I don't have a cloak for that affinity, right? Or a class item, whether you're doing this on Titan or Warlock. So I did all 4 of these, and this is what I do for all my gear. This is what I do for helmet, for gauntlets, for chests, for boots. I just try to get 4 different pieces that have decent stats, and I do them into the 4 different affinities. You don't even have to masterwork. You don't have to go that far. So let's take this helmet, for example. Without this grenade mod, it dropped with 21 recovery, it dropped with 18 intellect, 13 discipline, which is good. If this 8 resilience was up in mobility on the hunter, that would have been even better. But these 3 stats are good stats, and I like this piece of armor. So I'm gonna go ahead and upgrade it, and this is gonna be my solar helmet. Actually, let me check. I might have had a solar one already. Yeah, so I already had a solar one that I masterworked. This one isn't very good. This was one I masterworked early, and I should have masterworked it. But we're going to change this real fast just to void. And I'm going to go ahead and upgrade it. And even if I don't masterwork it all the way, this is now my void helmet on my hunter. So now I always have a void helmet. Whether I stop here at 8 energy, I go to 9, I go to 10, right? It's just an example that you always have that option to stop sooner. So this is my void helmet, and I would go through the rest of my helmets here and masterwork one for every affinity. So I technically have a solar with not the best stats, as you can see, and I have a void, so I would do an arc, right? And then I would do a stasis one. This stasis one right here is pretty good. Mobility 14, recovery 14, intellect 22, strength 10. The discipline's low, and I really want discipline, but I could probably make up for that discipline with other armor pieces and a discipline mod, right? So not terrible, because it's gonna masterwork a +2, so my discipline would go to +4, and if I put a discipline in there, we're at 12, so it would go up to 14 discipline. But then I'd have 16 mobility, 16 recovery, 24 intellect, and 12 strength if I masterwork this. So you got to think about stuff like that, right? You have your different options. This one's really good. Look at this. Mobility 16, recovery 13, discipline 15, strength 15. So it's basically a triple 15, and resilience isn't needed at all on a hunter, and intellect really isn't that important. So that's a really good one. So this is arc. I would go ahead and upgrade this to however high I can upgrade it with the materials I have. Okay? And so I would put this one into an arc helmet because I don't have arc yet, right? So I have my solar piece, my void piece, my arc piece, and then I would need to add stasis piece. And then once I add the stasis piece, I'm done. There's my 4 helmets that I'm using. So I'll do that on every piece of my gear. And then when it comes to build crafting, so like let's pull up the Discord here. And if I go over to my Discord and I click on the build picks and mods, right, that you guys see here, we have all these builds that I post in here. People like them, they enjoy them, right? So for a hunter, here's a hunter build I'm doing right down here. I'm gonna click on this. You see that I have solar frosties. And a lot of people are like, well, I've already masterworked that, so but I masterworked it to something else. So how do I work around that? Okay. So here's my solar frosties. All I would literally do is pull that build up, and I would know that, okay, he's running explosive wellmaker in the boot slot, right? So explosive wellmaker over here. And I would go ahead and replace that with a mod that can be used on anything. So pretty much all of my builds have at least 1 or 2 mods that can be used on any piece of armor. So for this build, we have elemental charge here. This is the one that you pick up an elemental well and become charged light. This can be used on any piece of armor. So if this was already masterworked to void, let's pretend it's already void, I would change this to elemental charge, right? Because it can go on here. And then wherever my other solar piece was, wherever that is, I think it was gauntlets, I would just take the solar gauntlet and I would run explosive wellmaker here. Right, so I just swapped the 2 mods around. And I get that question a lot in these builds is, what can I do to work around that stuff? That's all you need to do. So it's pretty simple, it's easy. You just have to make sure that you have the pieces in line. So if you have the void, the arc, the solar, and the stasis, you would be able to do any build in the game if you have just 4 pieces of armor on each character with decent stats and build into those. You don't have to be hitting 100 and double 100 stats. As you saw in the beginning of the video, that was showing you off a hunter build with 100 discipline and 75 discipline, and it took like 2 seconds longer to get that grenade back, that dust-filled grenade. So it's not 100% needed to have 100 and something. It's just, if you want to push a build as far as it can go, that's when I'm doing something with like 100 discipline, 100 recovery, right? Because I have the materials and I have the decent armor to get to those stats. You might not, but that's okay, because you can still be 2 seconds behind in getting a dust-filled grenade, right? With 75 discipline compared to 100 discipline. So hopefully that point's driven across that you don't need to match my stuff directly. You can do a lot of different things. So another big thing is, as far as people who want to build for endgame and do stuff, here is my dim. I'm going to show you dim and D2 armor picker. And literally just save your loadouts in here. So as you can see on my hunter, I have 3 different builds right there. On my titan, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different builds. My warlock, I only have 2 builds right now. But with this new feature that came out, you know, with this recent update, we can now save our full armor setup, right? So if I went into game and I took the time to match one of my build pictures and set it up, or even click on one of my dim leaks that I'm going to be providing you guys in the future, and you just take like 10 minutes and set it up the best you can, like I could throw on all this random stuff, okay? I could go to the helmet and even remove like elemental shards just to show you that it equips a mod as well. Change up random weapons on here, throw on a different subclass. We'll go bottom tree, golden gun, right? With all this random stuff. And if I go over here to dim and I literally click, this is the end game build I was running and I want to run this in whatever, I can click, let me refresh the page to make sure it, okay, yep, so it changed all my armor up here. You can see I only have a couple mods on. And I click apply with this. It says it's applying my loadout. You can hear it going in the background. It's applying the mods and 10 different options for the subclass. So you just let it do its thing. It's working, it's working. Sometimes this takes like 10 seconds. Sometimes it might take 20 or 30. But as you can see, it's applying it, and it said only 16 of 18 mods could be applied. Something, I don't know, anti-auto rifle? Okay, so it's not pulling my artifice armor. Right? See how it put this in the artifice armor slot and I still have this open? So artifice armor is a little different. It might not apply that extra one. You might have to do it, right? But it put elemental charge here instead. I still have elemental shards, but it put it in my gauntlets, protective light, explosive wellmaker, and well of life. Particle deconstruction, it put all the weapons on. It put revenant subclass with aspects and fragments. So literally I could say, I want to run that Dustfield build. Click, and I go and run it. That's all there is to it. If you have the artifice armor, that's the only thing you might have to change is something here. So like with this build, defeating combat with solar or stasis melee creates more power. I'll definitely want that on, and I'll put that on. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So that's why you want to be using dim and dim loadouts. And I have the links to my stuff. It will always be, if I go to my YouTube channel here, right? It will always be in the link to my video. So this is my most recent video. And if I go down here and I click show more, here's the dim link. And if I click on it, it takes you over to dim. And just for an example, it gives you all the different options. For some reason, it doesn't put the exotic in. So I'm going to select exotic and I'm going to click Frosties here. So now it gives you all your different options. It shows you what tiers you're running at, and it shows you all the mods and where they're in there and everything. If this information is not showing up, right? If this isn't showing up on your screen with all these different options here, all you have to do is come over here to your mod section, and you see the little X's on all these different mods. You just exit out some of these mods to see, because it's saying you don't have that mod. So like, let's say on your artifact, you don't have particle deconstruction unlocked. You would literally click X on that, and it would update this and probably populate what you have. If it's still not working, get rid of your artifact mods in general, because it's not pulling, you know, you might have different artifact mods unlocked. And if it still doesn't pop up, then you might not have a specific mod unlocked that you've never unlocked before. So let's say over at the compass in the helm, you didn't buy elemental shards on the weekly rotation. You might not have that. So if you X out of it, it would get rid of it from here and then populate the rest. But same thing with the early clip in the video that I showed right at the beginning of the video. All these mods just make the build that much better. Same thing with your tiers, okay? All mods that I use on my armor make the build better. Same thing with getting the highest tier that you can. It only makes it better, but it's not necessarily needed. All my builds that I do are tied to a subclass, right? And what that subclass provides and does, and then tied to the exotic and what that exotic does. Those two things alone are doing X thing for you within a build, and that's the base of all my builds. That's how all my builds start. It doesn't start with a perk on a weapon, right? Or it doesn't start with a certain mod on an armor piece. It always starts with the subclass and how that subclass performs and works, with whatever exotic I'm running and how that exotic and the subclass together does X thing, okay? So at all the builds I do, at the base, you'll always have something that's better than running nothing. That's for sure, like far better. And then just like I showed, I only had 75 discipline instead of 100. And in that clip, you also saw that we didn't kill any enemies, generate wells, nothing like that. So you saw that we could literally get our grenade back that fast with just a subclass and an exotic. So then you add on all the extra mods and all the weapons that does certain things, okay? And that's what accentuates the build that much further. It makes it that much better. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you guys is D2 Armor Picker here. So D2 Armor Picker is once you build up a collection of armor, let's say you get like 50 armor pieces sitting in your vault, you have 1 page of armor pieces in your vault, and you're using that to build out all of your loadouts and stuff. The more you play the game, the more materials you get, all that good stuff. D2 Armor Picker, literally just type in D2 Armor Picker and you'll find it. And I like this more than Dim's feature. Dim's feature is good, but D2 Armor Picker is just a little more simple and easy. And all you literally have to do is select your class. So I'm on Hunter. And I go down here and you select your exotic, right? And I chose Frosties. And now we have 5 mod slots available, right? Because of the 5 pieces of gear. And let's say I want to run 100 discipline. So I literally click 100 discipline. It updates. And it shows all these different builds that's happening over here. Now the game is saying, look, I have good enough armor that I can run 100 discipline, but I can still run 100 recovery or 100 mobility. That's how good my armor is. So I'm going to go recovery. It's going to update. Now I can only get up to 40 on these slots and 50 on mobility. So for the rest of these, I would say I want mobility the highest because I'm on a hunter. And then my next one, I would say intellect. So now I have 100, 50 mobility, and 40 intellect, which is pretty good. So I see all these, right? And over here I have tiers. It's a 34 tier. It shows you the strength, the intellect, the discipline, the recovery, resilience, and the mobility. So resilience is kind of high. It's actually wasting 8 stat pieces there, which that sucks. But my hunter is my worst character. It's my worst character by far for armor. My best armor is warlock and second best is titan for sure. So now that we have these done, you can click on the arrow here and it shows the different armor pieces. It shows what affinity they are. Class item, right? It doesn't matter. You can run any class item, all this good stuff. But you can copy this dim query to clipboard. So if we copy this and I click over onto dim and I go up here in the search bar, let me just click inventory to make sure. I go up here in the search bar and I paste that in there. Literally, it shows, if you scroll down, see how it shows it's using this helmet. It's using that new piece of gloves I got. It's using that new piece, chest piece that I got. It's using the Frosties, and then it could be any mark, right? So see how I already got a better arm piece and a better chest piece than I had previously because my armor on my hunter sucks. But it shows that if you want to really push a build to its max, you can do it this way. And right, I haven't upgraded this arm piece, or I haven't upgraded this leg piece or this chest piece. So I could change that chest piece to whatever build I'm making. So let's say I'm running the Frosty build and my chest piece is void. I can change it to void and put protective light in there, right? I can change this to a stasis for a grenade kickstart. And I can do that before I do anything else. But then this is always going to be my stasis piece and this is always going to be my void piece. You see what I'm saying? So it's a pretty simple system and it works very easily. It's just the base of it all, and by far the thing that I want you to understand, is just to have 4 decent rolled armor stat pieces and to the 4 affinities that you need. That's it. Because your exotic always can be worked around. Whatever mod you're running in your exotic, whatever affinity it is, you can always run the other mod. Like this one, Elemental Charge, that's in my helmet. You can always run that in whatever exotic that's already masterworked to a different affinity and just put on the solar helmet, right? So I would just literally put on the solar helmet and run Explosive Wellmaker with the solar helmet, and then I'd have Elemental Charge in the boots. It's as simple as that. So I hope this video helped you guys out. I really do. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll be able to answer them for you, and come on over to Discord. And if you ask me questions in there, I try to answer them. So any questions, let me know. I know it's a long video and I hope it helps you out, but Witch Queen's coming in like, 6 or 7 weeks now. So hopefully this helps you guys prepare a little better for it and better understand builds and armor and what you need to accomplish different builds. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.